We have a lot of very successful immigrant business providers.
Immigrant founders to collaborate with each other, give each other support and reactions, become customers.
How is Unshackled Ventures providing support beyond just financial investment?
When we make our investment, we know that these companies, if they are growing, if they're successful, they're going to need more capital downstream.
Please tell us, what has been your childhood burden that you've carried along, one of those things that you want to leave as an impact on this globe?
Today, I would be sitting here in Silicon Valley and talking to you on this podcast. I should have been a nobody that is one of over 1 billion people in India that nobody knows. 3 areas. So capital is the easy part, but part of capital is access to downstream capital. When we make our investment, we know that these companies, if they are growing, if they're successful, they're going to need more capital downstream. And so one big part of our effort that our investment team focuses on is helping founders raise money downstream, right? So that includes preparing for your next raise, help with the storytelling parts, coaching is involved in that, and then introductions to the right investor.
Tribal at the Immigrant Nation podcast, we are thrilled to have Nitin Pachisia, founding partner of Unshackled Ventures. Thank you, sir, and welcome to the podcast. Nitin is from India and he works at the Silicon Valley, showcasing the incredible potential of immigrant entrepreneurs. At Unshackled Ventures, he empowers immigrant founders, offering not just financial support, ladies and gentlemen, hear this out, but also mentorship and resources. Nitin's experience includes pivotal roles at Knot, Deloitte, and advisory positions across innovative companies in the US. Join us as we explore his inspiring journey and insightful insights into the immigrant entrepreneurial landscape. Welcome, Nitin.
Thanks, Martin. That was a fantastic intro. Thank you for having me. Excited about this chat.
Of course, you're welcome. So, I want us to delve in because I think there's so much that we're going to be talking about. I read somewhere on one of the website that kind of explores what you've been doing, that 7 out of 10 university patents in the US are filed by foreign students.
Mm-hmm.
How is Unshackled Ventures supporting these students, and how are you helping immigrant students with reaching out to this particular tribe and helping them be able to not just lose their patent, but also be successful in the US market?
The US universities are absolutely the biggest importer of skilled immigrant talent in the US. And that means that the universities are doing the job of finding this talent, qualifying them, selecting them, recruiting them, and convincing them to come to the US versus going to any of the other universities in other countries. And then once they come here, there's obviously a phenomenal innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem that exists in the US. And that's a function of building it over decades, centuries of taking risk and being successful with risk, right? Because risk is what's leading to opportunity in the US. And so I think there's a self-selection, a few things that work together. There's a self-selection that happens, which is the more entrepreneurial students choose to come to the US, they land at these universities that have an ecosystem that foster even more innovation. And that encourages these students to try things that haven't been tried before. And that's what leads to new discoveries, which lead to patents. And so you find your patent is one criteria, but you go to any entrepreneurship center at any of the schools, you'll see typically, maybe 10% of the students are international students, but at the entrepreneurship centers, 50% of the students are international students. That's disproportionate. Why? Because those international students are by nature more entrepreneurial. The first entrepreneurial act they did was leave their country and come to a completely new country. Language barriers, accent barriers, cultural barriers, doesn't matter. They're here for the opportunity. And so we love working with these students. We're often at universities doing mentoring sessions, talks about how do you start your company, what can you do before you start your company. We do it virtually, in person. Just this year, I think I've been at least a dozen universities, if not more, in the 5 months so far. And we'll keep doing that. And we invest a lot in student entrepreneurs as well. We've invested just before they graduated, before we have invested soon after they graduated, and sometimes after working in the industry for 10 years. But the university is that key affinity point that if you come to the US to go to school, you will keep going back to the school. When you start your company, you're going to go back and see what resources and connections can I get there. So it's a great place for us to connect with international students, alums, and now future Americans.
I would do you a disservice if at this very juncture I do not say how our international students across the globe that are listening to you can reach out to your organization for help. Tell us where we can find you on social media.
On our website, first of all, it's open access. So there's two things on our website that are important here. One is if you're ready to raise pre-seed capital. So we only invest at pre-seed stage when founders are just starting their company, pre-revenue, pre-product. We love going as early as possible. There's a button or a link called Pitch Us. That's open to everybody, and anyone who fills that form, the information is going to be seen by our investment team members, and everybody's going to get a response. And that's a commitment we made when we started. That's a commitment we still keep. There's no over preference for warm intros versus someone who just fills the form. So that's part one. Part two of staying close to us is on the same website. There's a link for community. This is a community that we started last year and opened earlier this year for immigrant founders or future founders to collaborate with each other, to ideate with each other, give each other support and reactions, become customers of each other's products. And it's also the best way to stay close with us and our team. And this community is open. It's by selection, meaning you fill a form and someone will approve you, which is to make sure that only entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs are in this community. We're not letting in service providers or anybody else who can muddy the waters. So those are two ways I would say you can get close to us right away.
We have a solution for immigrant students who are inventors. I have an interesting question and concern for you. And if you guys are not doing this, you probably want to think about it. But we have a lot of very successful immigrant business providers. And some of the immigrant businesses that are across the globe, mostly in the US and Canada, some of them have done really well, but they struggle with figuring out where to invest their earned capital. And so are you guys creating a platform, because they're listening to us having this conversation, where they can invest with your venture funds so that they can get a decent return on their investment?
That's a great question. We haven't platformized that. I know there are other platforms on which you can invest in startups as an individual investor. But a lot of our investors in our fund are successful business entrepreneurs who are investing individually. In fact, many of our founders from earlier funds are investors in our funds now. So we welcome successful immigrant operators to come to join this community of our investors, and that leads to a lot of other things. I'll share a few examples. Like, we have some individual investors who are building their own companies. They are CEOs or CTOs of their company, and they invested in the fund invested in a startup. This startup is now solving a problem that is an acute problem for their business. So not only are they an investor in Unshackled, they also become a customer for a portfolio company, which led to a $5 million contract between these two for a startup to this company. We have similarly operators who become mentors to founders. We have operators who become investors directly in these startup companies, or even join startup companies as C-level executives. So there's a lot of collaboration that happens through this mechanism of immigrants investing in immigrants. There's, the other side of it, which really motivates us, is we would really love to make more money. Look, we know we're gonna be making great investments, but we would love to make more money for the for people who are not already billionaires, right? So we'll
Mm.
invest the billionaires' money in the fund, or take their money in the fund and invest in startups. But we'll also we love to work with people who are not billionaires yet and make money for a um, diverse set of LPs. So if any of your contacts want to talk about or look at how do we get to invest in early stages, just connect them to us. We'll work through if they're a fit for the fund, we'll welcome them to the fund. If they are angel investors who prefer investing directly in companies, we'll work with them on that as co-investors. All of those paths are open. It's just a function of knowing the right people.
Very interesting. What attracted you to the US? Why not Canada or Russia? And combine that with what was your initial entrepreneurial journey as an immigrant?
So I didn't come to the US with the intent to stay in the US. I came to the US for a few months to part of my job at Deloitte was to integrate the US practice with the India practice. And so I came here to work with the US team, learn how they operate so that I can integrate the two teams better. But once I landed here, and I was very fortunate that I landed in Silicon Valley, which is a very unique subculture within the American culture. And I just instantaneously fell in love. Before that, for 3 years, I'd been traveling extensively with ABB. Every 3 weeks or so, I was at a new place. So I got to experience a lot of Asian cultures and European cultures. Um, Coming to Silicon Valley just felt like it's everything that I desired in the right culture around me, the right environment around me. It felt like I belong here. And if this place was going to accept me, I would love to be here. I would flourish here. And so from that point, it became a desire. And fortunately for me, the Deloitte teams here loved what I was doing, and they wanted me to join them here full time. So I took that opportunity. And since then, this was in 2005. I've really not thought of being anywhere else. This is home, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. The Once I came here, I think the first entrepreneurial activity was at Deloitte. I started a practice focusing on startups, and now so this is kind of entrepreneurship. This is starting something new within a very large organization. Um, and I did that, and that practice took off, and that's how I first got exposed to startups, right? Because Deloitte is usually working with very large companies that can pay the large consulting bills. But that experience of starting that practice also exposed me to what is high growth environment look like when a Series B company that's growing, tripling every year. What are they going through? And that was incredible, valuable experience that I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else, which led to joining a startup and then starting my first company, which led to starting Unshackled. So it was a string of opportunities plus risks, which that's kind of the nature of entrepreneurship. Is there's an opportunity which has an associated risk, and our job as entrepreneurs is to maximize the opportunity while managing the risk. And so I was fortunate that those steps all worked out.
Nathan, based on your experience, what are some of the unique challenges you are experiencing that immigrant founders face, that Unshackled Ventures specifically aims to address? And what are some of the issues that they're going through that sometimes, however much you're willing to help, you may not have a solution for?
Amazing question. So I think step one is when we choose to come to the US, we know that we're coming on a visa. We're not born here. We're not citizens. So we're not going to have all the same rights of someone who was born here, right? So we're accepting that challenge. And what that translates into is you come here to work or to study. Like you came to study, I came to work, and we have our specific visas that we're on. Every visa comes with its own set of, you can do this and you cannot do this, right? There's the do's and don'ts of every visa category. And whichever visa you're on, therefore, is kind of prescriptive on if you want to start a company, are you allowed to do that or not? For example, you graduate out of school in the US, you have 1 year of OPT. That 1 year, you have a lot of freedom. You could be
Yes.
self-employed, you could start a business, but then you go into STEM OPT and those limits start coming down a little bit because now you got to start approaching into H-1B like conditions. So what I realized after being in the US for 7.5 years, when I first started my company, I was told by dozens of attorneys that I cannot do that because I'm on H-1B. I need to work for somebody else. And that wasn't an answer that I was expecting. That wasn't an answer that I was willing to accept either, because just think of, like, you are really excited about doing something and you go like, oh, I want to do this, tell me how to do this, and they tell you no, you can't, right? How does that feel? That it's kind of the sense of helplessness followed by really strong determination that I am going to do this. So every time an attorney told me you should not do this, you cannot do this, I was like, I'll show you how I will do this. And that discovery process really led into becoming much smarter on immigration law than I ever thought I would. I'm not a lawyer. I don't intend to become a lawyer, but trying to find a solution for myself made me a lot more acutely informed on how immigration law works and how our conditions really define. Lawyers have a tendency to simplify them down to very tactical levels, but if you abstract them up to the actual requirement level, there are ways to solve for that. And that's how we designed the Unshackled solution, right? So if you think of an Unshackled solution at the highest level, it's a combination of VC business model applied with an R&D lab operating model, right? Both of those models existed before we came into being. We combined the two to solve a specific problem or specific condition on which immigrants are in this country, right? And so if you're on a visa, you need an employer. Well, somebody needs to be an employer. Well, the R&D lab will become the employer, right? Now you operate like you're working for somebody else, and all of the rules of employment apply as if you were working for Google. Nothing changes. Plus, we invest the capital to sponsor that research at that R&D lab. Others can provide capital to sponsor the research at that R&D lab. And then over time, our immigration team works with you to figure out what other visas could you be eligible for. Once that happens, if you are eligible for visas that enable you to go to your startup, or the startup progresses to a point where it can hire you, all those things happen over time. In the immediate term, you just want to work on what you want to work on, right? And so that was the impetus to build Unshackled in this way, was take away the friction for the founder who wants to start today. And we've been doing this for 10 years, almost 300 immigration filings for founders born in over 35 countries. Every single filing of ours has been successful, has been approved, because we are creative about it. We pay a lot of attention to the details. We are the only VC firm that has an immigration law firm as partners, right? That's how important this is to us and to the founders that we invest in. And so over time, this playbook of solving for immigration has become really large. When we started, we were only thinking H-1B visas, but that's not the only visa available to you. There's a lot of different provisions. And to your first question, immigration was the starting friction that we were looking to take away.
Yes.
As we started working with founders, what we realized is the next thing is, all of us come here as young adults or adults, and we leave our networks behind in our home countries. So there's no equivalent of friends and family capital, right? And friends and family capital also brings access. So that's the second thing that we solve for, is capital and access to capital. We've built a really large network with investors who want to invest in companies that we're investing in. So we'll introduce um, our portfolio companies to the right investors when they're relevant for them. Um, and more recently, call it in the last 3 or 4 years, we started feeling the need for this community where founders can help themselves. So those are really the three things that we do: is immigration, capital, community. Everything that we solve for revolves around that.
While your intention was not originally entrepreneurship, neither was your intention to migrate to the US. The no, you're not gonna stop me mentality. What was the foundation? When did you discover that you were relentless in your pursuits?
Uh, I don't know, but I think it comes from, I grew up poor. I saw my dad started a small business just before I was born, and I saw him work intensely on putting food on the table through this business, and we saw how our life improved. Every day was better than the previous day because of his entrepreneurial effort and the work ethic. And so by the time I was 10, 11, 12, I started working with him on his business. I wanted to learn how all this works, and it was a manual labor business running injection molding machines at a plastic manufacturing unit. And so, but I started doing that, and I think the joy of creating something started becoming real for me from there. Um, when I was 15, we had a tragedy in the family that led to certain downstream events, and I had to take the responsibility of running that business to feed the family. And so, at 15, I was responsible to take care of our family of three, my parents and I, while studying. And my goal was work enough to feed the family and study enough to do my CA fast as possible so that I can take the job that I want to take, which is going to be much more rewarding financially than running the business. And so that job happened to be the ABB job, which made me travel and obviously paid me much better than any money I'd seen before. So I think that the instinct of what it takes to be ready to take the opportunity when it comes your way, um, and also have a worldview that allows you to see opportunities as opportunities, not just problems, right? So, um, for example, when attorneys were telling me, you can't do this, you should not do this, just work for another company until you get your green card, I could have taken that. I could have written a blog post whining all about the U.S. immigration policies and how bad they are, and that would not have solved anything. It would still be the same state of union. Instead, I think the instinct of action leads to change, and action informed by knowledge that you have to acquire that knowledge to drive that change. I think this a lot of that just comes from experiences of going through the family business, or my dad's business experience, growing up a bit too fast, taking the opportunities as they came about, and not worrying about rejection, not worrying about what if it doesn't work, because if it doesn't work, nobody's going to remember it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But if it works, it will solve some problems. It will make life better for some people. I think that's kind of the mindset that I operate with, is which is also why the US ecosystem works phenomenally well, because US ecosystem encourages you to try, take the
Mhm.
moonshots, be ambitious with whatever it is that you want to try. If it doesn't work, it's fine. It's a learning experience. Everywhere else in the world, if it doesn't work, it's a failure. But in the US, it's a learning experience, and then you get to try again. So I think that's why someone like me fits really, really well here. I enjoy being here, is because I can be my authentic self.
Being your authentic self, what are some of the qualities you look for in an immigrant founder, and especially when they're coming up with a startup, considering the amount of investment they may require, and what are some of your personal values that influence a decision to uh, link up with a founder if um, they're pitching you?
There's no hard set. We really focus on learning about the founder, and the reason behind that is our investments are pre-product, pre-revenue. Almost every company that is very successful in the portfolio now is doing something very different from what they were doing when we invested in them, or what they thought they would be doing. And
Mhm.
that's because founders are the founders we backed were curious, were willing to learn what they don't know. They were also very ambitious to take big shots, but if they don't land, they don't keep taking shots. They want to learn from each shot and see how do we make the next shot better. And so what that leads to is this very steep learning curve that founders go through once they start, and then as soon as they get to this point of, okay, this is what's going to work, then they can double down and really push for it. So in our investing, what we tend to appreciate about founders is, number one, their distance traveled. We really like to learn, um, how did you get where you are today, right? Where were you born? What was the growing up years like? What steps did you take to today? Let's say you're graduating from Penn, but how did that happen? What all did you do to get there? And that those stories often lead to some formative experiences that the founders have had, that frame who they are as people. So that's important for us to know. Uh, what that allows us to then appreciate about them is the degree of curiosity, coachability, grit, their opportunity cost, and do they understand that they have an opportunity cost? Will they settle for small wins, or are they looking for global scale opportunities? All of those are important factors that go into our consideration. And then there's other things, which is, we love working with technical founders. So they may not have business skills. They may not have um, experience selling to others, but
Mhm.
if they are smart, can they learn that thing? Or can they learn storytelling? So we're not expecting every founder that we invest in to be a fully refined, perfect entrepreneur. Um, that's not the field we play in. We expect imperfections coupled with high curiosity, high learning ability, um, focus on self-development, um, and that has really worked out well.
How is Unshackled Ventures providing support beyond just financial investments?
Yeah, I think I mentioned a little bit before the three areas. So capital is the easy part. With part of capital is access to downstream capital. When we
Mhm.
when we make our investment, we know that these companies, if they are growing, if they're successful, they're gonna need more capital downstream. And so, um, one big part of our effort that our investment team focuses on is helping founders raise money downstream, right? So that includes preparing for your next raise, help with the storytelling parts, coaching is involved in that, and then introductions to the right investors. And so we obviously have built very, very large networks of downstream VCs. Not every VC is a fit for every company, so we do the work to figure out who are the right people you want to be talking to. So that's number one area of effort, and almost every portfolio company has raised money downstream through our introductions, and that's a win for the company because they get to grow, and that's a win for us because our we save the founder time. The second piece is immigration. Again, it's a time leverage. We really believe in saving founders time in two ways when it comes to immigration. Your options, if we're not involved, the options are you can stay at the company at which you are or stay in academia that's sponsoring your visa and wait for the green card. So you're losing valuable years of your life doing something else. And two, do this on your own, which means you are spending the time the way I did, learning immigration and working with attorneys and figuring all of these things out yourself. My biggest issue with that was I wasn't spending that time on building my business. I was doing immigration knowledge building, right? That's not conducive to growing my business. And so it is that time arbitrage of giving founders their time back so that they can invest it in building their business. So that's the second thing that we provide to all our portfolio founders, no cost. There is no, in fact, our portfolio founders don't even pay legal fees because the lawyers are part of our team. And so all of the immigration support comes at no legal cost to the founders. And the third piece is portfolio success, which we're now putting it under the community part, which is founders helping founders and our community, us plus our network helping founders. And that's on things like, um, I need to figure out pricing, right? The product's working, but I want to talk to some experts who know pricing. So what are the different pricing strategies? Because as you start growing, you now got to figure out pricing, go to market strategies, product marketing strategies. Like there's a lot of, how do I hire executives? I've never hired executives before. Those are things that when you are in a community of people who've done this before you, who can guide you through the process, we do a lot of that connection. We ourselves, the team at Unshackled is not an expert at everything, and we recognize that. But what we are really good at is bringing the right people to the table to provide the help that will move the business forward. All of our efforts are aligned into amplify founders' time. If we can give founders their time back, they will use it really, really well because we're backing really smart people.
So, if you were speaking to a group of immigrant entrepreneurs, what advice would you give them if they are looking to raise capital?
Well, it depends on who they are and what they do. Like generic advice like Google or ChatGPT isn't useful to founders. And so before I give advice, I would need to know a lot more context on exactly what are they trying to do, what are they trying to raise, and then I hopefully will have insights that could help.
So, in your day to day life, what are you discovering to be the most interesting ways that entrepreneurs, especially in the immigrant sector, are networking?
I think it's a great time to be an entrepreneur right now because there's really really good communities, local as well as virtual, that allow you to, if you are an entrepreneur willing to put time into building your network, building your, because network is not just about who do you know, it's about knowledge transfer, it's about social influence transfer, right? So social capital transfer. And so uh, I don't personally think networking is really the best um, framing of it, but surrounding yourself with people through participating in communities in a way that you are helping other founders and they are helping you in areas that you need help in. I think it's become much easier to do that both virtually and being in ecosystem, especially if you're in the Bay Area, New York City, LA, any of the bigger ecosystems. There's a lot of events, there's a lot of smaller, very well curated communities. Um, our community is one of those where everybody's an immigrant founder. So there's affinity around, you've left your home, you've come here into a new culture. There's a lot of common grounds to cover. Um, so if you want to expand your network, I think the opportunities are there. You just have to take that first step and be willing to be willing to put yourself out there, which I also appreciate is not, for many people, is not easy. So, I have empathy. I was an introvert myself, and so I have empathy for how it can still be daunting, but I really encourage founders to build the courage to do that. And then once you start connecting with people, you start seeing the value of, compounding nature of relationships, where knowledge comes to you faster, and social networks come to you faster, and just help you build your business faster than you could on your own.
Well, social networks are really important in building yourself, not just as an entrepreneur, but also as an individual. What common mistakes are you sometimes noticing that immigrant founders make, and how can they avoid this?
One common thing that I see is being too humble. And you have to appreciate that you're in America. This is the
Yes,
land of marketing. This is,
I am
you
so
gotta
glad you're
market.
touching into this one.
You gotta market yourself, and you have to appreciate that your competition, to some extent, your competition includes entrepreneurs who grew up here. So it's very natural for them to talk about the grand vision and be able to talk about how great they are, and all the great things they've done. I think culturally, most immigrant founders find it difficult to start doing that about themselves, right? And so if you can overcome that, and do it from a perspective of, if you don't tell me, Martin, all the amazing things that you've done in your life, I will not know. So it's
Yeah,
not bragging, it is informing. And if you can apply that mindset of, if you're meeting me to raise money, I need to know the amazing things that you're capable of doing by knowing amazing things that you've done in the past. And so if you don't inform me, I'm not going to know. And that kind of shift has helped me. My coaches have helped me overcome um, that fear of bragging, for myself. And I think that's a common thing that I see with a lot of immigrant founders. Um, the other is this, the uh, less focus on storytelling and more
mhm,
focus on the technology. And the sooner you can make the shift, that the technical innovation is important, no doubt about it,
yeah,
but it has to fit into a story. It has to fit into making somebody's life better. And the hero of that story is not you or your company. The hero of that story is your customer or user. So
yes,
when you see that shift happen, it's magical. And sometimes you have to work a lot with founders on that, and some founders are really quick to pick up on that. But storytelling is such a magical thing, where when you shift the focus to, how is your user or customer winning by using your solution, things just start moving so much faster. So those are the two things I would suggest, as immediate hits.
very interesting, very very interesting. I am so glad you went there, because this is one thing where, hanging around immigrants, it just becomes, you sometimes come across these people that have amazing talent, but they're so shy about talking about their talent. And it really, when you start digging deeper, it has nothing to do with the ability to present themselves. It's just a cultural thing that's holding them back, and that, to me, in the entrepreneurship, has become such a big issue. I'm glad you really did touch into that one. Again, please tell our listeners where they can find you on social media, please.
We're on LinkedIn, at Unshackled Ventures, and you can find me, Nitin Pachisia, on LinkedIn. I think on the Unshackled Ventures page, we're more responsive than I am on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitter, as at Immigrating. You'll have the link. Unshackled VC, is our firm Twitter handle. Um, I believe those are the two social media accounts, but our website is really a great place, and the community the best place to connect with us.
And what's the website one more time, please?
Unshackledvc.com.
Excellent, excellent. So you're out on the West Coast, and obviously you're way there where most of the technical change is happening in the US and across the globe. ChatGPT and other models like that are happening. And so, for immigrants that are looking to delve into entrepreneurship, what are some of the things that they need to be aware of based on the changes that are rapidly happening in our world today?
Um, Here's how I would put it. I don't think we're disconnected from any of that, right? So we're a spread out team. And our portfolio is spread out throughout the U.S. as well. And by virtue of working with founders that are coming from all over the world, at last count, we had seen pitches from founders born in 160 countries. That that kind of perspective keeps us grounded to
Yeah.
real world realities, not just living in a Silicon Valley bubble, right? Which is, you are right that if you are only surrounded by people who live and work in Silicon Valley and are building their companies in Silicon Valley, you could bubble yourself out of the rest of the world. We're very fortunate by virtue of what we do that we get constant inflow on what's happening in the rest of the world, and how not just ChatGPT I think is one example of it, but advances in AI are changing life throughout the world. And so all of us are immigrants. So we also come ourselves, as the team comes with backgrounds from Europe, Asia, Latin America, and so I think we really love just learning what's happening in the rest of the world, and how, whether it was Web3, whether it was plant-based protein, whether it's AI, how it's changing life in different parts of the world. And it's different, right? It's how
Yes.
people in Silicon Valley are using AI to remove a lot of the mechanical tasks out of their life, and in some other parts of the world, it's a way to learn. It's become an educational tool, right? So it's fascinating to me how tech advancements will be used by population in different parts of the world to solve for what they are not getting from it. And it's kind of, it was working through the hierarchy of needs, right? If you go to a country where the basic needs are not met, they will first use the tech to meet those basic needs,
Yes.
until they get